Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Stoughton School Committee on April 9th. The time is 7:05. Can I have a motion to open the meeting, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Armando. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the meeting is opened. So this meeting is being recorded for future viewing on SMAC. And let's stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I should acknowledge I am opening this meeting as the senior member. Our chair could not make it this evening, and we currently do not have a vice chair until we do the reorganization vote, so just want to name that. So the first item on the agenda is actually the reorganization. So I would like to turn it over to Dr. Baeta to chair the reorganization of the school committee as we vote for our new chair and vice chair. So I'll pass you the gavel so we make it official.
Can I hit it?
Yeah, if you want to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under state statute as well as our local process, at this time I'd like to open nominations from the committee for chair of the school committee.
I'd like to nominate Catherine Weiss, our current chair. I feel like she's really stepped into the role and shown a lot of leadership over her last year, and I'd be excited to see her continue to lead. And it's not just because she's not here tonight.
I second it. It's totally because she's not here tonight.
The motion has been provided by Ms. Kleckler, seconded by Ms. Shannon. And do we have any other nominations for chair of the Stoughton School Committee? Hearing none, may I have a motion to close the nomination of the chair?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Been first and second. Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 4-0 at this time. Congratulations to Ms. Catherine Wise as the new chair of the Stoughton School Committee.
All right, congratulations.
At this time, I'll take nominations for vice chair of the Stoughton School Committee.
I'd like to nominate.
Can you,
Oh,
Mike?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Kleck for vice chair of the school committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Forwarded by Mr. Barboza, second by Ms. Shannon. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, may I have a motion to close the nominations for vice chair of the Stoughton School Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Congratulations to Ms. Kleckler. And at this time, I will take the meeting over to the vice chair, Ms. Kleckler.
All right, thanks, everybody, and thank you all. So at this time, we will move on to, I believe, actually, there's an appointment to the warrants on the agenda. I'm going to suggest that we hold on that until the 23rd when we have the full committee available.
Great.
Any objections to that? Okay. So at this time, we'll move into public comment. Do we have any, Angie, do you mind checking the sign-in sheet? Do we have anyone signed up for public comment this evening? Okay. So we will move on. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot for that. I appreciate it. Okay. So we will move on to the superintendent update. Dr. Baeta?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, first of all, welcome to Ms. Powers as a new member of the committee. I know Ms. Powers as a Stoughtonian, so we've known each other for many years, and welcome aboard. I'm finalizing currently a plan to present to the school committee a fee-based summer program, including pricing for free and reduced lunch. You'll see that on your 23rd agenda. This will be available prior to the 23rd as part of your packet. The facility subcommittee, as of next week, will have prepared for you its recommendations on the use of the South School and other schools as part of the new building process. That will also be on the 23rd's agenda. And that is timely because, both of those are timely because of signing up for the summer as well as town meeting starting on May 6th. The New England Association of Schools and Colleges visit to Stoughton High School will be completed by tomorrow, Wednesday, April 10th. We anticipate a report in the coming months. This will be shared with the school committee and the community at large. I want to express my sincere appreciation to Principal Miller, her team, the faculty, staff, students of Stoughton High School for the last 3 days, or 2 days plus tomorrow, of their efforts and also all the work leading up to it. I will be finalizing the appointment of a director of the Jones Early Childhood Center this week. I plan to make a offer to a candidate tomorrow. Monday, April 29th at 6:30 p.m. at the South Elementary School, there's a community forum for all residents, plus a special invitation to town meeting members. An overview of the proposed new building, as well as a walkthrough of the South School, will be made available to all. Postings of positions for FY25 will go out on Monday, April 22nd. We're going to get an early start on the positions that we know we have to hire through retirements and other needs. So we want to get out there early because, as we know, this economy is tough in finding employees. So that process will start that Monday. And the Jones School preschool program fees, for your consideration, based on some changes they're making, will also be coming up for the 23rd as well. And again, that's just discussions that typically happen on at least year-to-year basis. And it's, again, your call because it's a fee structure. At this time, Madam Chair, I have nothing else.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Beata. Any questions from the committee? Okay, great, thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our Student Advisory Committee representative, Angie. Welcome.
So the high school right now, we just finished the NEASC, or I think it finishes tomorrow, that visit. It was pretty successful. I was in a meeting, and I think it went overall really well. I've heard a lot from other kids who did presentations. So it sounds like that went really well for everyone. We also started spring sports a couple weeks ago, and last week we officially started competition. So that's happening. The senior class, they're planning their prom. They're finalizing everything, and the junior class is having a semi-formal dance. So it's just some things happening. That's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for the Student Advisory Committee? Yeah.
So the semi-formal for the junior, it's the first time in a while that this has happened, correct?
Yeah. I think they had one 2 years ago, but I don't think it was very successful. So we're hoping to have a better turnout this year.
It sounds like the students are really excited about it this year.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yep.
That's awesome. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate the update.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the next, we'll move into new business on the agenda. So the first thing on the agenda is the panel facilities use fee waiver request. Use fee waiver request. Dr. Beata, do you want to?
Thank you. Yes, as you know, the Party All Night Long has been a process here in Stoughton for quite a long time. It's a great program. They are requesting your consideration of the following, that they understand the custodial and food services fees that need to take place in terms of the staffing, with a couple of modifications. But as you know, the committee may waive the use of facility for Party All Night Long, and I recommend that you do so. And also the 2 custodians and 2 food service employees, I think that that could be cut down to 2 and 2 as well. And that would allow for the organization to utilize its fundraising and fees to really throw a good get-together for our seniors as they go forth. This is an organization that really just tries to do everything for the kids, keep them in a safe place for the night, have some fun for the night. And as we all know, as a dad of a senior, I know that in another community, but the fact is, this is one of those nights where safety is at the top of our list. So I appreciate the Party All Night Long folks for doing this. Their names are all listed, committee members on the back for your information. My recommendation is to waive the fee and to have 2 custodians and 2 food service employees for that night.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Any comments?
Just one comment. I'd just like to echo the superintendent's point about this being a safety factor. It is a major, major safety event more than anything, and the fact that you have these volunteers who have worked tirelessly to put this event together and to make it as engaging and fun and as bonding an event as possible for the students, I think is really commendable. So I just wanted to add my voice to that.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion to accept Dr. Bayetter's recommendation on the party all night.
To waive the,
To waive the fee,
Waive the fee and to bring down the
yep,
custodial.
and food services to 2 each.
okay,
I think we can handle it.
is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, thank you all. So that motion passes 4-0. The facilities use fee waiver is granted, including staffing changes. So thank you to panel for putting that event together for our seniors. I think every year it's got really positive feedback, and just excited to have folks in the community who are willing to offer that. The next item on the agenda is the Stoughton High School HOSA out-of-state overnight trip approval request.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Did we say HOSA? Is that like?
Yep.
Okay.
The Future Health Professionals Program Conference, International Leadership Conference this year is June 26th to the 30th in Houston, Texas. We have students that during the months of February and early March took part in the Mass State program competition in a number of different ways. 5 students qualified by placing in the top 3 Massachusetts for their category of exam, and were announced at the state conference at Worcester State on March 2nd. 4 of the students who qualified were interested in attending the international conference in Dallas. These 4 students include Ariel Rothman for clinical laboratory science, Sarah Riker for sports medicine, I'm going to get this wrong, but Tuvi Patel, pharmacy science, and Ruby Guglia, nursing assisting. The students attending IOC will be competing by taking part in a 100-question written exam and asked to demonstrate science skills related to their topic of expertise. The cost, as you know, is laid out here. It is student responsibility and family and support that they will be able to gather. Because it is a out-of-state and overnight student involvement, it requires by state statute the school committee approval. At this time, I'm recommending the approval of our 4 wonderful students to have a really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Okay. Any questions or input from the committee? Yep.
I just want to, for the record, say a massive congratulations to all 5 students. We know that the 4 that will be going to the national competition will represent Stoughton well. We're very proud.
Yeah, and congratulations to all 4. So at this time, I'll take a motion. Oh, sorry, any other questions, Karen or Armando? Okay. So if anyone has a motion, we can.
Motion to approve the host request for out-of-state overnight trip.
Second?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right, so the HOSA field trip
301.
request is approved. Yep.
Thank you.
301. All right, awesome. So we will move on to the introduction of the Director of Facilities and Grounds. Welcome, Mr. Rico.
Yes, Mr. Rigo, if you'd have a seat. I'd like to welcome Mr. Dennis Rigo to you this evening as the new Director of Facilities and Grounds for Stoughton Public Schools. Dennis is a local kid and graduate of the system, been in town for quite a while, been the senior custodian during our building project of our brand new high school, and has taken the lead on many of those hot topics that come with a brand new building. Prior to that was in financial data services, and prior to that, you have his resume, a senior specialist also with that same organization. So he has a long work history. He's not someone that's been jumping around from place to place. I'm hoping that he does support us in the sous chef experience that he has. That could come in very handy during certain days. He has an associate's degree from Massasoit in business administration and already has 30 credits in business of science with a concentration in management that he's working towards. He has recently also been the union president for the custodians, IT, and maintenance department, so we've had that relationship as well as treasurer and executive board member of the AFSCME Council 93. I welcome this evening Mr. Dennis Rigo as our new Director of Facilities. Dennis?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent Stoughton. I'm very excited to take on this role. It's, when I first started, it was new opportunities and new challenges, and when this came about, I thought this would be a good fit for me, and I hope I make all of you guys proud. Thank you.
Mr. Rigo begins on the 22nd. He's going to take a week off, and then he's going right into it. Ms. Husseini will continue with us throughout. We're trying to get a couple of projects checked off as she ends her service with us, and also the transition of, she had already started cleaning out the office and all that stuff. Myself, Dennis, and Joyce will be meeting on I think it's bi-weekly basis to just really tackle the things that we want to do, because the summer months will be here quickly, and that's a very busy time for his department, as we all know, plus the potential, hopefully, of a building project. So we got a lot to do over the next few months, and it's good to have that transition taking place here in between Joyce and Dennis.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear there's like a transition process in place. Welcome, Mr. Rigo, welcome to the new role. Very excited to see you continue to build on your experience here. Any questions or comments?
Welcome, you're going to be really busy.
Congratulations.
Welcome from one new to another new.
Great.
Together.
I'm looking forward to working with everybody here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight too. We appreciate it. All right, perfect.
Thanks, Dennis.
So at this point, we can move on to the next agenda item, which is our multilingual learner program update from Dr. Amy Quealy. Welcome. And
Dawn Fernandez is going to join me.
And Mrs. Dawn Fernandez. Welcome. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if you go in and you,
Oh,
if
I
you just
can-
go in and sign in, and then you can go to your,
This is fancy.
right, we just started this.
Okay, nice.
So this is thanks to Anthony, who is our director of tech, who, we had a bunch of wires in the corners there, and I kept saying, oh my goodness, somebody's gonna take a fall in this corner, so.
And it was probably going to be me.
Yeah, yes, no, we don't want the vice chair to do that, especially tonight, you're the senior member here.
That's right.
And the reason why we wanted to do this is we really want to get in a little bit more of opportunity for the public to see the presentations, because currently it's just in front of the committee members and myself. So this allows for more information to be out there.
Good idea.
Let's see if the mouse will work down here.
Can I just ask you both, turn your mics on
Yeah,
for
sure.
speaking, if you're speaking? and
How
then
is that?
Absolutely kick it over to you.
So thank you so much for having us. I'm Amy Quayle. I'm the EL Director for Stoughton Schools, and I have been here since 2019. This is my 5th year in Stoughton, and this year we were so happy to welcome Dawn.
Hi, Dawn Fernandez. We met earlier this year, and this is my first year in Stoughton. I'm excited to be able to share more information with you all tonight. Thanks for having us.
So as you all know and are aware, we've had substantial growth in our multilingual population this year and over the past few years, actually. And just to give you an idea of where Massachusetts is at, and I'm sure this is even higher since 2020, but they have not updated on the state database. But as of 2020, we were on track to be at roughly 11% of our state as an English learner. And I'll tell you a little bit about the acronyms and why we switch back and forth quite a bit between acronyms. And I would say Stoughton would mimic this, except for the state has definitely grown since 2020, for sure. So as of last week, just to give you an idea, we say when we talk about our department, English Language Education, that is the same as what you may know as ESL, English as a Second Language. I like to use the term ESL quite a bit because internationally that's what's known, when we refer to learning English. But it's a little subtractive in that so many of our students are learning a third and fourth language. Not everybody is just learning English as their second language. We refer to the students who are learning English as English learners, or ELs. That is the federally legal term is English learner, but there's been a movement in Massachusetts to use the term MLL, which is multilingual learner, as a more asset-based approach because kids speak quite a few languages, not just English. So as of last week, we hit 700 students, and that is pretty substantial considering that when I started in 2019, we were just a little under 300. We've more than doubled our multilingual population. We're serving around 539 English learners who directly receive service daily, and we're monitoring about 164 students who've exited needing English language services. The state recommends that we deliver 90 minutes, which is pretty substantial of a school day, 90 minutes of direct English language education to newcomers, those are level 1s and 2s, and 45 minutes to transitional levels, level 3 through 5. And as Jonathan always likes to remind me, that it is recommended by DESE, but really it's a requirement. If we don't meet those service delivery hours, we do get cited. So we try very hard to deliver, 90 minutes of instruction a day or 45 minutes, depending on what level of English proficiency a student is. Oh, well, I guess I can't go back. But if you saw that language breakdown, and it's in your packet, historically Stoughton
Sorry,
that's okay.
up top of the slideshow.
It's my little graphic up here. So historically, our second language spoken in Stoughton has been Portuguese, but we see a substantial rise in Haitian Creole, and the majority of our newly arrived students are coming from Haiti, but they're coming with more than one language. It's been very interesting for me to see this past year. A lot of our Haitian students are speaking 3 languages, in some cases even 4, so it's been pretty amazing. As you can see, like I said, since I've been here in Stoughton, we've almost nearly doubled or tripled in some areas of our Ls and FELs. And FELs refer to former English learners, kids who are monitored. And the state requires us to monitor students for 4 years, which was a big change from when I first started in 2010 to 2 years. So that's a lot more oversight for the 4 years of monitoring for former English learners. So here's a breakdown of where our multilingual learners are in our schools. So the majority of our multilingual learners are in the high school, with 23% of them being at SHS, followed by Wilkins. And the dismantling of the magnet model, some of you may remember that, about 5 years ago, really didn't change Wilkins' population that much, which was a surprise to all of us. And Gibbons and Daw are roughly the same. With 12% of our English learners there, and the middle school, 17%. The middle school has had the most substantial growth this year, and as I always remind Dawn, the middle school is only 3 years, right? 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So you have almost the same number of English learners at the high school in Wilkins as OMS, but OMS is only 3 grades, so it seems more profound to the teachers at OMS. So some of the things you might not know and some of the things you might know that we've done over the past few years, and I'm really proud of our team and our greater school community. There was a lot of accolades being given during NEASC today about the things we've done to meet the needs of our multilingual learners. We have aligned the curriculum K through 12. We've built an EL database. We've offered oodles of professional development in elevation, DESE laws, the new WIDA standards, transitional bilingual approaches. We've implemented the Avant Stamp Native Language Proficiency Assessment for the seal of biliteracy, and I'm proud to say in year 1 that we started testing students for the seal of biliteracy in high school, we tested 19 students. Last week we tested 81. So that's pretty significant, and the majority of the students who were tested show proficiency. Those are native English speakers as well as speakers of other languages show great proficiency in a second or third language. We've developed what's called an individual language plan, and this is part of the law, the Look Act that was passed in 2017. So students who aren't on track to be fully proficient in English within 6 years, the Department of Education tells us, and we have to put in an English language plan of success for them, much like a DCAP 504. We hired Dawn, the assistant director. We've implemented newcomers classes at both the middle school and high school, and the newcomers classes are clustering newcomers to help them facilitate learning English quickly and content. So we have 2 math classes at the high school, 2 science, and 2 history classes as well, and they're co-taught with an ESL teacher. We've hired an instructional coach at the middle and high school level, and that's working out quite well as far as helping teachers grow students' proficiency in English and content. We hired a part-time multilingual counselor at the high school who speaks 4 languages and has been extremely helpful. We've asked for paraprofessionals. We've added a teacher at the middle school. We've begun a lot of curriculum work, aligning with the WIDA 2020 standards. We have joined the Southeastern EL Directors Group. Dawn and I go monthly, and we meet with all the surrounding districts around here who also have considerable growth in their multilingual population. And as a result of joining the Bilingual Hub, I think this is something I'm most proud of this year. We will have certified, hopefully, 10 general ed teachers in dually certification in English as a second language. So that was all grant funded. Thank you, Mr. Ford. All grant funded. So we did a consortium grant with Randolph and Brockton to get 5 general ed teachers to go over to Bridgewater State University to take TESOL classes. And by doing so, they will be duly licensed in their content area and ESL. And then we wrote another grant, so a couple of the ESL teachers can train some of the general ed teachers to take the ESL MTEL. So by July, we're hoping that we'll have 10 more teachers certified. We do a lot of extended day for our English learners. We have a thriving LPAC, an English Learner Parent Advisory Council. We just had a guest speaker speak to us about the Tuition Equity Act. And going forward, Dawn's going to take over from here, so you don't have to listen to me the whole night.
So I think it's pretty substantial, the amount of work that Amy and the team, and with the support of the district and the school committee, has been able to accomplish in growing the program over the last several years. So as we look ahead, there are a few targeted things that we really want to try to accomplish to continue to improve our service delivery model. So that includes expanding the elementary school services by adding an additional ESL teacher to meet the needs and the growth of the district, which is inclusive of many Stoughton families as well. So it's not just including the families in the emergency shelter program. Then we also want to continue the curriculum work that we've been doing, updating our scope and sequence to continue to align with the WIDA 2020 standards and provide literacy development for our ELs as well. We want to continue to train folks on elevation, the general ed teachers and the administration, so that we're really utilizing this database to support programmatic decisions and just on the day-to-day, the students in the classroom. That's really the home for all the information related to our English learners, full of skills and teaching practices that will support them in the classroom as well. And then we would like to add an additional ESL or SEI coach to the elementary level. We've seen such strong success with the coaching model at the secondary level, and we hope to replicate that in the elementary schools, and then ultimately investigate the possibility of a bilingual program for our students. Thank you. That's okay. So this is all, as Amy said, it's DESE guidance, but it is ultimately tied to our compliance and our ratings through the review process. So just to take a moment to kind of reiterate some of the things that our program is tied to. So when we initially identify students, the state guidance is that students or families are invited to complete a home language survey, and when another language is identified anywhere on the survey, we're required to screen them. And so Amy has personally sifted through over 400 of those this year alone. And of those 400, we have screened over 250 kids. So we've administered the actual WIDA screener to 250 students. And that's just this this year alone. So that requires a lot of
Manpower.
or woman power, people power to get that done. And then the Look Act, which Amy also referred to earlier in the presentation, this was put into law in 2017, and so that's where we get the ILP, the Individual Language Plan. So students who are not progressing to become proficient in English within about 6 years, we have to target interventions and strategies to help those students make progress. So that is also an additional thing that we've been doing that didn't exist before 2017. It also requires schools or districts with more than 100 English learners to have an LPAC, which we have a thriving one. And it requires school districts to offer the seal of biliteracy, which, like Amy said, we had 81 students take last week. So I won't repeat myself again with the ILP and the reclassification. We also talked about how it's up to 4 years. Thank you. So the TFM, which is the Tiered Focus Monitoring, replaced the Certified Program Review, the CPR. And so Stoughton went through that the last 2 years. The self-study followed by the site visit, which was virtual because we did so well. They tend only to come in unless you invite them or if they have concerns that they need to see. So it was impressive that they chose to do the virtual site visit for Stoughton. And then furthermore, we only ended up with 2 findings from that, which is quite remarkable. And the 2 findings were related to content teachers or classroom teachers not having the SEI endorsement. There were only 8. And since then, we were able to support those teachers in either already obtaining or they're in the process of obtaining their SEI endorsement, meaning all of our teachers are trained in working with multilingual students in the classroom. And then the other, which was partially meeting, is that at the secondary level, we were not meeting that 50% growth target. And so since then, we have brought in the coach at the secondary level because a couple of years ago, Amy was able to, thank you, 22. You can see this grade 6 and 7 are highlighted. So grade 6, the percent of students making progress was 0. And grade 7, it was 10%. The only difference between 2022 and 2023 was the implementation of an instructional coach at the middle school, part-time. And so this person did a phenomenal job working with teachers to support, teachers and students to support language acquisition within the content classroom. And the following year, that same group of students, the 6th graders, went to 45% from 0, and the 7th grade group went from 10% to, was it 47?
Yes.
And I also, if you think about it, that 47 was the same group in 6th grade the year before who was at 0. So that, I mean, that's quite impressive, and that's the newcomer group in particular. So we've expanded that, and he's now working with teachers and students grades 6 to 12. And so that's how we've been able to address those 2 findings. But that cycle continues, and we will go through another TFM. And so our program model, just to make sure everyone's clear of how we instruct our students, our English learners, at the elementary level, it's predominantly pull-out, meaning the elementary English learners leave the classroom and they meet with the English learner teacher in the English learner classroom. However, moving forward, we're going to actually be providing services for higher level English learners within the general ed classroom to try to really continue to foster that language development in the content setting. And then at the middle and high school, we implemented the newcomer classes, and there's also still ESL or EL classes as well, and then we have the coaching model. And so we wanted to leave you with this.
We wanted to
The-
end with the Massachusetts Blueprint of EL Success. So a few years ago, the Department of Education implemented, and I presented to our leadership team at our leadership conference in July, they implemented what's called the Blueprint of EL Success. And it has 4 pillars. And I just wanted to end by playing this video so you all know, because what the Blueprint of Success really says is that success for English learners happens at the classroom, the school, and the district level. So you all are the district level. So we'll end with this video. It is about 4 minutes, but I think it is worthwhile that we take a
Save money
moment
with Snapshot Quote
to watch it.
Instant savings on your commercial auto insurance. and
Sorry.
vehicle-
Oh, do we see volume?
I think it started quiet.
Does it start quietly?
Maybe.
Welcome to the
There we go.
Massachusetts Vision and Blueprint for English Learner Success Interactive Dashboard. In 2018, following the passage of the LOOK Act, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, along with a broad and diverse group of stakeholders from across the state, articulated a shared future vision for English learner success. This vision, informed by research and analysis of Massachusetts data points around the success of ELS, calls for transformational change and coherence at all levels of the educational system to support equity, achievement, and outcomes for ELS. Over the course of 2 years, the department collaborated with stakeholders to develop a blueprint for ELS success, providing educators with steps that can be taken at the classroom, school, district, and state levels to achieve the Massachusetts vision. The Massachusetts Blueprint for ELS Success consists of 4 research-based and data-informed pillars and 12 building blocks that guide strategies and practices that lead to change when supported with effective and sustained implementation planning. Pillar 1 focuses on elements of school culture that are necessary to ELS success. English learners in Massachusetts attend schools in which all educators share responsibility for their success, engage effectively with their families, and value and nurture their linguistic and cultural assets. Pillar 2 focuses on ensuring that English learners are taught by effective, well-prepared, and culturally responsive educators who hold them to high standards and have the materials and professional learning they need to advance students' academic and linguistic development simultaneously. The blueprint focuses on each building block, creating coherent approaches at the state, district, school, and classroom level. Pillar 3 focuses on opportunity and support. English learners have equitable access to meaningful and rigorous learning opportunities that build on their cultural and linguistic assets and the academic, linguistic, social, and emotional supports they need to excel. Pillar 4 focuses on a plan for future success. English learners thrive in high school and graduate with the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary to be successful in college and/or a career of their choice, and to contribute to civic life in a global community. Together, these pillars of our blueprint for ELS success are unpacked into evidence-based strategies, practices, and guidance with resources and tools to support them. Most important to using the interactive blueprint dashboard is the systemic nature of the tools. The core pillars and building blocks in the blueprint are expanded and amplified at each of the classroom, school, district, and state levels so that educators can create coherent and aligned through lines of practices and plans across the system. This organizational feature of the blueprint for ELS success enables any educator at any level of the system to use it to inform their own practice, in their own role, and in their own sphere of influence. A district planning team made up of educators and administrators with different shared responsibilities for ELS can use the blueprint resources and tools in systemic planning for ELS, for prioritizing system-wide goals and integrating them into existing plans. These plans may include school and district improvement plans, professional goals, PD plans, or other improvement or implementation plans. The development of the blueprint for ELS success informed the development of the interactive dashboard for ELS success in 2020. The dashboard provides practical, actionable, and interactive tools and resources to support educators, including new online, user-friendly explanatory quick reference guides, QRGs, technical state and federal guidance, practical tools for implementation, guidance and exemplars of effective practices for ELS, and resources aligning the use of the blueprint to district and school planning processes. What we know from evidence-based practices and implementation science for scaling up is that planning for ELS systemically and systematically must be an ongoing planning and improvement cycle to achieve change. With your involvement and a system-wide commitment, every educator in Massachusetts can work in unison toward achieving this vision and transforming outcomes for our multilingual students. Check out the resources and tools on the ELS Success dashboard. Share with your teams. Just click on the pink logo or the drop-down menu. And check back soon for the department's self-paced Blueprint professional learning modules and new resources to support your local team in ELS Success planning.
So I invite you to all check that out on the DESE page. The Blueprint for Success is a great resource of tools and professional development as well. My last slide, I don't know how to get back to it, was questions. So are there any questions?
Switch to Chrome to load your
Sorry.
favorite sites fast, so you can browse with ease.
There we go.
I have two questions. The second one, I'm not too sure. You're gonna have, Lindsay, you're gonna have to tell me if I can ask or not. But
Okay.
first one is, what's your biggest challenge?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say the biggest challenge this year is keeping up with the pace of students who are entering the district. We've had, and like Dawn said, outside of the shelters, I mean, we are up around 700, only 83 of them are from the shelters. So the majority of kids have been moving to Stoughton on their own, and it's been a challenge to meet all the mandates and the compliance, to screen, to get all the kids serviced at 90 minutes. The majority of kids who are coming are newcomers, so that's been a challenge. You know, manpower hours. Dawn and I work quite a lot.
Thank you. My second question is actually because it's further down on the agenda. The potential for a new schedule, is there an impact to your program?
Do you want to speak to that? Dawn's been working a lot with the administration at the high school in regards to scheduling.
So as Amy talked about, the time on learning is a challenge, and the new schedule would actually really support our English learners in a lot of ways. Our level 1 and 2 students would still receive close to their 90 minutes per day, which is perfectly acceptable, even if it's not exact with the scheduling at the secondary level. So it would support the service delivery model for L1 and L2s. It would allow us to kind of expand our co-teaching model for the newcomer classes, because the current schedule has some conflicts in it. And so some of our students who need the newcomer classes aren't able to take them. And this new schedule would provide a little bit more flexibility to do that by moving the professional collaboration outside of the 8 core content classes. And then additionally, we've been working on ways to try to support students who are struggling academically. And another benefit that helps particularly our population of students is by having a consistent first period class. Students who struggle with attendance are only missing the 1 class instead of 4 classes. And for some students, those high number of absences result in a loss of credit. And so with the current schedule, there are some students who potentially lose credit in 4 classes, making it really difficult for them to successfully earn a diploma in 4 years. However, having a consistent schedule so that the same 1 or 2 classes is first period, we're creating opportunity for students to not be losing credit in multiple classes. So I think this schedule would be really helpful for our students in particular.
Thank you for the presentation and for all the work that you're doing to make a difference in the lives of these young adults. I have a question, a request, and an observation. So I'll start with the observation. If I remember correctly, the teachers got a professional development around the ELs in terms of creating a sense of belonging.
Yes.
And I was really thrilled to see that because I know that that is a huge indicator of success in general. So if there's anything that we can do as a school committee to enhance that sense of belonging for these students, I know that that's going to make a huge difference academically and personally for them. The next point I wanted to make along those lines is we had a presentation for the school improvement plans a while back, and an elementary school administrator shared that he was unaware of ABE, adult basic education. Do you work to connect the families of these young adults to ABE services, if they would be helpful in providing them with additional assistance around language, around just understanding American culture and how our society works, job placement, things of that nature?
Yeah, well, like I said, we have a thriving LPAC, and we meet multiple times per year. We have had guest speakers. We also were lucky enough to get 2 ESL sections at our Stoughton Academy this year. So we had 65 or 66, mostly parents of our students, come and sign up for the ESL classes. Our families want to learn English, and they want to better their educations, but they have to have the opportunity to do it. We also work with Massasoit as well. So we do, use all the resources that we have, and Bridgewater State has been amazing this year to put families in touch. I think we have a great system of family like homeschool connection, I guess. And that's in part due to our community organizations like the Brazilian Community Center. We work very closely with the Brazilian Community Center. We've even done presentations up at the Brazilian Community Center to help parents with an array of things that they need help with. But I'm really proud of the ESL classes that have started at Stoughton Academy, and we need to keep those going and building on what we already have, and they're being taught by 2 licensed ESL teachers, one who's currently one of our ESL teachers at the middle school.
Is that information shared with building administrators? Because like I said, this administrator was not aware of these services that are provided to families.
At the time, I think we did not have, they are all aware, yes.
Okay.
And we try to make them aware if they're not. And they're invited to LPAC meetings as well if they want to come. But at the time, I think the administrator that you're referring to, we didn't have the ESL classes at night. These are brand new. So we're always growing and improving, hopefully.
Okay, excellent, which leads neatly to my last question. When are LPAC meetings? When is the next meeting? And how can I personally find out about them?
Sure. Well, they are whenever the chairperson, who is Marcia Previati, she's the chairperson, and she usually helps with the meetings. And we did just have a guest speaker recently. Our next one is May 15th. And I can definitely put you on the email list for sure. And we are going to have a bilingual bus night on May 15th, as well as a summer program registration night. We did that last year, and it was very successful. So sometimes we don't have straightforward meetings like this meeting. Sometimes we have events because parents need to learn how to sign up for summer programming, for instance, or we had a real big issue with a wait list for our buses for our multilingual families. So to rectify that, we create events. So that's our next LPAC event in May. And I certainly will let Marcia know if you want to attend. Okay.
I just want to say thank you for sharing all of this. I feel like when we are doing the school committee things, which are like the budget and policy, it's like very high level, and it's just really nice to be able to see like what the work looks like. And really, I think in particular that, I know we've talked about it at meetings before, but the tiered focus monitoring findings to only have 2 partially meeting is like really solid. So like, I think that's
Thank you.
just something to be really proud of. And especially knowing the evolving needs of our student body, I'm just like excited to hear more about the work that we're doing and know that we can feel pretty confident that we have a great team in place doing it. So thank you for coming tonight and for sharing
you
all
for
of this. We
having us.
really appreciate it. And thank you, Dr. Bayetta, for, running point on that. So thank you both.
Thank you.
All right. At this point, we'll move to the SOA plan vote, which is the Student Opportunity Act plan vote. I will kick it over to Dr. Bayetta, or is it Mr. Ford doing this one? All right, Mr. Ford, it's all you.
Thank you. So, as you're aware, we did receive additional Student Opportunities Act funding this year. And although it's a significant amount of funding, it does come through Chapter 70, there are strings attached to this particular stream of revenue. It does, in fact, require us to conduct a needs assessment and go through a formal data process, elicit feedback from the community, and then identify the student groups that have the biggest disparities in learning and their outcomes. We have completed that process. Once you complete that process, you have to identify focus areas on a rubric that they give you, and then specific evidence-based programs that the district will implement in order to improve its outcomes. Now, what we've done is we've completed the process. We identified the focused areas. We identify the evidence-based programs and what we're going to do over the next 3 years with the funding. And we've accounted for that entire allocation of funding. So identify the teachers, coaches, and all the different things that we have detailed in here. So we've developed a plan. You have a summary of the plan because the plan itself goes into the GEM system, which is the system we use for applying for grants and eliciting funds through the grant system. It's a clunky system and does not lend itself to actually printing and providing you, so you have the summary. But the requirement is that plan be submitted with an affirmative vote of the school committee by April 1st. Now, I did contact the state, and they're going to allow us to submit it with this particular date as an affirmative vote, which we've done. And really, all we need from you right now is a vote on the plan. Ask any questions you like. We can talk through it. So that in fact, we've met our statutory requirements in accepting these funds in accordance with the Student Opportunities Act.
Thank you for that context. I'll open it up for questions or input from the committee. Anybody?
Thank you for the summary. It's very helpful.
Okay. I think I'd like to ask if you could just speak a little bit to the process of selecting the evidence-based programs and just what that looked like.
So they actually, they require to use what is a heat map, and they'll send you a spreadsheet with all your district's data. And when you go through it, it's for us, it's very obvious where the need lies, and that's students with disabilities and English learners. Once you go through that, you're required to go through and triangulate the data with your own internal data, which it all lines up. I mean, this wasn't any mystery in terms of looking at it through the data lens. We also went out, and when we conducted the focus groups for the homework policy, we piggybacked focus groups for the evidence-based programs that fell under the SOA. So we actually collected, and we had all the schools, the CPAC, the LPAC, and some of the other groups in the schools identify their priority areas. And what we found is for the first 2 evidence-based programs and focus areas, it was like a direct correlation. For the last one, which was focus area 2.2, it was a strong correlation, but it wasn't an absolute like the first. But when we looked at the things which we needed to do specifically to address what we found in the data, it wasn't a perfect correlation anyway with the programs. So we went through, identified the programs, and the difference for us is we actually had to look at programs and plans that we were already implementing, because the Student Opportunity Act can go 2 different ways. You can use it to build out completely new programs, or you can use it to justify allocations of funding in these areas within your own budget, which is what we did. So we found things that we're currently doing that we can improve upon with additional resources. We identified those in terms of the focus areas and the evidence-based programs, and we zeroed in on them and how we could then align what we're currently doing in our triennial improvement plan, in our district improvement plan, in our school improvement plans, within the superintendent's goals and some other things we're working on, to line this up with those other plans. So now basically this ties, we've had a number of different plans. This ties everything together in one area, and it identifies the revenue stream and what the allocations are being to support all the different things that we're doing. And we summarize in this document. I can break this down to further detail for all of you if you want to come, and we can just pull it up. If you look at the GEM system, it's like a series of checks boxes and narrative blocks, and it's great for accountability, and it's great for the Department of Ed to delineate what we're doing and break it down and allocate it and see it in little, small, compartmentalized segments. But it's not an easy read, but all that's available to you, including funding, dollars, where it ties everything together. This is just a summary, but we have a lot more detail if you'd like to really get into it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Sure. Any last questions or comments, or feeling okay? All right, so I think what we need to do is vote to approve the Student Opportunity Act plan for FY25 to FY27.
So moved.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Thank you, Armando. Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 I'm going to abstain because I don't really know enough about this.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. All right, so we have 301, and that is approved. Thank you, Mr. Ford, for putting this together. I know GEMS doesn't really lend itself to printing, so the summary document was really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. So we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Joint Labor Management Committee recommendations review. So we have two in front of us. One is for the Stoughton High School schedule. The second is for the O'Donnell Middle School advisory. And the third, which is listed on the agenda, the Jones schedule, is actually not ready for this evening. So we will have to take that up at a future meeting. But I will give it to you, Dr. Bayetta, to just walk us through the process for these two suggestions. And just sort of like a summary of what the changes would be, if that's okay.
Happy to do so. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Stoughton School Committee and the Stoughton Teachers Association in this previous contract came to an agreement on creating joint labor management committees consisting of different parties, which I will outline for each of these, with the goal and intent of coming to agreement, requiring both the STA to approve and the school committee to approve, just like you would in any other type of negotiations. Before you tonight, you have the recommendation of the Joint Labor Management Committee for the schedule for the high school and the advisory for the middle school. As you noted, the Jones School, it's actually a minor tweak, but the fact is we still need to write the outcomes of that, and we'll get it to you ASAP. The language of the agreement between the Stoughton School Committee and the STA consisted that the schedule at the high school would consist of the Unit A members who are part of the high school faculty council, the high school principal, and 2 members of the administration appointed by the superintendent. Through the principal, I appointed the new dean of students at the high school, who comes with 16 years of experience with another district, and the new assistant principal at the high school that also comes with numerous years of experience, both in suburban communities and cities. The committees started their work, asked to extend their work because, as you know, the ratification of the contract didn't happen until the end of December. Then we had to get everybody together, and those both sides agreed to extend it beyond March 1st. They did so, and you have the recommendation of the Joint Labor Management Committee before you. That overarching perspective is this concept of what's called a flex block. The way that the flex block works different from the current. And just to go back to some facts as provided by Ms. Miller, in 2012, we were running a 7-period, 7-day cycle. We moved that and adopted a different schedule of an 8-period, 8-day cycle, 4 days with 90-minute blocks and 4 days with 42-minute blocks in 2014. So the schedule that has been before us is now 10 years old as of this year. So the work of the Faculty Council started back in 21-22 before the pandemic, or following the pandemic, I should say, and now you have a recommendation from both the management of the building and the staff that goes into a flex block, meaning that you have 4 79-minute blocks every day with a 40-minute flex block on that rotation as well. The way that it works is in a traditional block, if you will. Periods are longer. You have more time within that content area. The flex block is a very different complex concept within block scheduling. It's being done with a number of different districts, as I have said to you, and I put some of that stuff in writing as you have it. But the idea behind the Flex Box is to really target actually some of the things you just heard earlier tonight from the EL presentation on the question that Mr. Barboza asked, which is the flexibility to work with all of our students in different capacities. And that will be a work in progress, if you will, but it does provide a lot of the extra help, the makeup work, the attention to the counseling services and support, the little bits of the yearbook photos that you can think of, the writing labs, and so on. And these are all listed within the Flex Block ideas. What is really interesting about this is in gathering some information about the Flex Block from other districts that I did as part of this recommendation after I received the recommendation, is that there have been good successes and also tweaking of that. So that is the overarching proposal that is before you and that you'll be considering at your next, potentially considering at your next meeting. The second, sorry, do you want me to? I can, okay. The second tentative between the Stoughton School Committee and this STA was to look at an advisory period at the O'Donnell Middle School. And in this particular process, the Joint Labor Management Committee established for the purpose of proposing an advisory schedule at OMS consisted of 12 members appointed by the STA, and then the OMS principal, and in this case, 2 administrators, the dean and the assistant principal, because we had changed administration there, as you know. The Joint Committee met numerous times as well, and they were actually the first group that was done. They had this idea that this is needed, supported by data, and I can speak a little bit about that if you like. But their idea is that students in grade 6th through 8, beginning this September, they really want to begin the concept of really trying to develop relationships with a trusted adult in the building, someone they can count on. The purpose of the advisory is a daily check-in for students. It is the opportunity for students to come together for a regular basis, to have lessons, and so on and so forth, grounded on really the big picture of SEL. Now, not in here that I'd like to add to this is, as you know, I started the Superintendent's Advisory Committee at both the middle school and the high school. I can assure you that the number one thing that my middle school students that are telling me as the superintendent, and it's a wide-ranging group of students, we've met twice already, and the number one thing that they bring up that they want to see change for is conflict. There's too much conflict at the middle school. And I asked for the definition of conflict. What does that mean to you? And it's not only a kid gets into a fight, which is the real, it's the other stuff that happens, the social media stuff and all of that. That's what we talked about as part of that. This advisory period provides us an opportunity to really try to tackle these SEL topics of relationships, making good decisions, and really having a person to count on. And I'll show you some stories of some of the things that we have learned. When there is a fight, unfortunately, using the most extreme, we now have designated reporters. They're actually designated recorders. Cell phone. They're choosing someone to record it so it can be sent out and published and so on and so forth. That's one story from students. Another one is they've heard about the hall passes for the bathroom at the high school. It's all the e-passes. They've heard from their oldest siblings. It's good. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. Yes, you got to check out that way and so on. How can we get this at the middle school so I feel more comfortable going to the bathroom? Now, those are all ideas of just meeting with the superintendent. Let's flip this to happening every day at O'Donnell Middle School. Just think about that. Kids coming together to not only talk to each other and learn from each other, but to put out ideas to make the culture of the school not only safer, but better for kids. Advisories well done at the middle school can have a long-lasting positive impact. This is research-based, not my research, research-based on what happens in the older grades as they enter 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade and 12th grade. Time management, better decision-making, and so on and so forth. So that's the big picture of those two presentations, or those two tentative agreements, if you will. The third one, which is the Jones School, you don't have, I can just speak. We're trying to add more opportunities for families around the idea of a fifth half-day program, AM and PM. And we do see parents that are saying, could this be a fifth day? It makes my schedule easier because I know where they can go in the afternoon or in the reverse in the AM. And then the fee structure is up to the school committee. It's not part of the agreement. So that's going to be the one that you're going to see there. Everything else, it speaks to the contract already. The periods of the classes, how long they are and all that, that's already predetermined. And then the last one that doesn't start until later is the elementary focus one. That's the fourth one. And that's really looking at collaborative time within the school day and so on and so forth. And that one just hasn't started its work, and it doesn't have to have a final recommendation until December. To be quite honest, I'd like to see the committees be put together before the end of the school year and then just dive in September when we get back. For next week's meeting, for the next meeting, I'll make sure that the principal and so on are here to not only take your questions, and I think it would behoove, because this is such a big process, if you will, that whatever questions that you have, as soon as you can get them through my office so I can send them off, then the better we can prepare not only you, but the positive and negative comments that will come through this process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Bayetta. Any initial questions or comments or anything from the committee? Okay, I know this is, we received this information as part of our meeting materials, so it's been a pretty tight turnaround for us to react to it and have enough processing time. So I think what I will ask on behalf of the chair, who is not here this evening, is that we, by Friday, put together a list of questions, like individually compile questions, whether that is about the process that was used to create the recommended schedules, input, any like logistical questions about how it'll be implemented, and then we can individually send those to the chair, Catherine, so that she can compile them and share them back with the superintendent to get it to your team. Would Friday work for everybody? Does that give people enough time to put everything together? Okay, perfect. Sorry, Karen, I just can't see you. And then Dr. Bayetta, does that give your team enough time to turn it around?
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we can turn it around, number one. Number two, which will have to be turned around no later than the following Thursday of vacation week, so that could be a little tight, but we'll work on that. The other thing, too, is if you really want to meet with me one-on-one, or you want to phone time with me, or I should say a Zoom time with me and all of that, I can make myself available. I am away next week, but I am available electronically. I'm just a few miles away. It's just a matter of setting up the time around a little bit of my schedule. So happy to do that as a way to get you answers as well. So, and I do agree the process through the chair. And if the chair is not going to be available, which that could happen, then we'll work through the vice chair to have that happen. We can have that communication out to you sooner than later.
Yep, perfect. I appreciate it. I think that gives us time to do our homework and make sure we're making an informed decision here. Okay, perfect. Thank you all. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the transportation overview. Dr. Bayetta, do you mind speaking to this a bit?
Yeah, this will be very brief.
Sorry, Mike.
Thank you. Madam Chair, thank you. This will be very brief. One of the things that we have to take a serious look at is our transportation and how we're doing it. As you know, right now, both a secondary or late buses, but then the potential for secondary late buses is still up there because of all of our after-school activities and sports to support our families is a need. As you know, that'll be a priority, or I will be requesting the school committee that be a priority as potentially funds become available. The second one is that right now we also have a cut within our total buses. We had added one for this current year. We're going back to prior. So part of the issue is that we have a half-mile protocol, and what I'm trying to do right now is collect some data of what's happening around us and like communities. So we do have other communities around us that do have pay and ride. I actually got a request from Mr. Cardoza to get information from another school system nearby, and we did that. And the fact is, they have fees. We don't. That's a little bit of a difference. Although their fees are about half of what ours were at the time. I think we were up around $350 or $375, somewhere around there. So they're using a different system. As you know, every penny that is free transportation means it's fully in the budget. So if you had a revolving account with $300,000, that means that $300,000 is now in it. I'm not suggesting you do fees. I'm simply suggesting that we need to take a look at our mileage and transportation and how we do it, because right now we're treating basically every grade at in the same level. There will be a waiting list again next year for transportation. It'll grow, unless, again, we can prioritize that, and as funds become potentially available over the summertime, I'll be asking the committee to provide me some support on priorities, so that the first 100,000 in savings is for this, the next 50,000 is for that, and so on and so forth, so that I can hopefully throughout the summer communicate with you and say, check, priority one's been checked off. Priority two is the next one we're working on. Priority three, I don't think we're going to be able to do it. So that way throughout the summertime, we're able to also provide parents more information as it's happening. And so that's the gist. I will ask for a member of the committee to consider to volunteer to be part of those discussions with me, and a small group of folks that we're going to put together to discuss it. I don't need that decision tonight. I just want to put it in your head that if you're interested in transportation, this would be an interesting committee to be on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I think what we will do is vote to establish a working group consisting of the superintendent and one school committee member.
Yep.
Would you recommend any additional members to that working group?
I would probably say Mr. Rigo, who's got responsibility
Yep.
for transportation. Ms. Hussein, as well, she's still with us. She has a lot of experience. And in the office, we also have Ms. Leanne Kermit, thank you, who would also be important because she has a lot of the history as the admin assistant in that office. Tremendous. I mean, she spends every hour, waking hour, and every weekend on transportation. So she really holds it together for us. So a minimum those folks. I'm not looking for a consultant or anything. And then probably get some other information from other sources if needed.
Okay. So I think what we could do is vote to establish a working group consisting of one member of the school committee, the superintendent, and 3 administrators determined by the superintendent, and those would likely be the 3 we just named.
Right.
Is that, okay. So is anybody open to making that motion?
So moved.
To establish, okay. And thank you, Armando. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry, I feel like I should have phrased that as what is the vote? Rather, that was a leading question, but assuming it didn't change anybody's vote. Okay, thank you for that. I think maybe what we can do then also is if you are interested in serving on that committee, include that in the email to the chair with the schedule questions, and then the chair can make an appointment that way. Does that feel good? Okay.
I'm sure you're all going to be battling for who wants to do it.
I mean, the chair may choose, since we appointed her while she was absent, she may choose to exercise some discretion there. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the quarterly financial report. Do we, is that
Yes.
Ms. Perkins or?
Ms. Perkins is here.
Okay, welcome back.
Right on cue.
Perfect timing.
And you do have a handout, so.
No,
That was stretch.
totally fine. Thank you for timing it like impeccably. I'll kick it to you to present the quarterly report.
Thank you. Yes, as you have in front of you, just sort of a rundown of where we are year-to-date. As we mentioned earlier in the year, we are running on a very tight budget freeze that we put in place around November and are still keeping it very tight as conditions warrant. We do approve purchase orders for critical needs, obviously, for life and safety. We've tried to get any supplies that are critically needed, and we have tried to fund field trips, presentations, extracurricular activities, et cetera, for the kids. So we've tried to manage it all in a way that would least affect the students or the experience in the classroom, et cetera. So, and that's going fairly well. So oops, I always do that every time I'm here. Pop that up. Obviously, we'll still continue to have some unexpected, unanticipated expenses, whether it be for special education, repairs and maintenance, things that, we just can't know ahead of time, and we'll make arrangements for that. As always, we have some payroll expenses that cannot be encumbered in the report, just by the nature of what they are, overtime, substitutes, et cetera, that, get expensed out on a pay-as-you-go basis. The $427,000 is what we're estimating right now that we will get in the second payment for the homeless shelter aid from the state, presumably the end of April or sometime in May. And so what the state put in place for this year is 3 data collection timeframes. The first one was earlier in the year, it was due December. It was $43,000 that came in, which has already been allocated towards expenses, in this realm. The next will be through about March 1st, essentially, is the calculation. And the third, which will be from March 1st through June, those funds actually won't come in until over the summer, so they will not help our budget situation for this year. That is largely, the 427 is, I'm just going to say, is largely spoken for that unencumbered payroll and end-of-the-year types of pay that we, if we have people retiring, et cetera, if they have an early retirement incentive or different things, we have calculated all of that. So that money is about 2/3 spoken for payroll situations through the end of the year. And so we did put in, as you know, the out-of-district tuition had an increase this year of 14% over last year. And so there is always some supplemental aid for circuit breaker that the state has a program for, and they added an additional type of aid this year for reserve aid. And we did make out, all the application, our special ed department did, and send that in. We have not heard back if we're going to qualify for anything. I believe the district got somewhere in the realm of over $100,000 last year in supplemental aid. We don't know, we are thinking we probably are not going to qualify for it, but we'll certainly keep you abreast of that. So that is just another, I'll call it a hit, that we're taking this year that, is not something that we will probably have the benefit of, but hopefully there'll be at least something out of it. We just don't know yet. I wanted to point out too, though, that, thank you, Mr. Ford and others in the district, there have been a lot of smallish to medium-sized grants that have come out from the state this year, and we have put in for and received, and I'll just for the folks at home, I will just quickly read them off. So chronic absenteeism grant for $10,000, homeless emergency support grant for $70,000. That's being used for transportation, parent liaisons, and a part-time Haitian Creole counselor. An SEL and mental health grant for $100,000, and $31,000 in grant funds for expanding high-quality math. We did just receive, we don't have to apply for it, but the state from time to time, really since COVID, just from time to time, they will suddenly send out some supply chain assistance funds, is what they're calling it, for the food service program. That specifically goes into the food service revolving. So we did just receive $91,890 for the supply chain assistance. So although we prefer not to use any of our current year circuit breaker, we've had that discussion before, that is already budgeted as an offset in our 25 budget. If we end up at year end that we do need to transfer some of the out-of-district funds out of our budget into the circuit breaker fund to, keep us, where we want to be, then we do have that to fall back on. So just wanted to point that out. The budget freeze would remain in place through the end of the year. And then on the salaries, just sort of the recap of where we are, as we discussed many times before, the contracts that we settled this year were, it wasn't budgeted for exactly the amount that we settled at. It was budgeted a little bit light, to be honest. And so that's why in the grid, I only point that out to say that in the grid on the second page, why the instructional cost center is appearing to have an $800,000 deficit is related to that. So the administration deficit, I just want to point out that we do have some things that we still have to allocate out to move through some end-of-the-year journal entries. Pupil services, nursing, special ed, et cetera, again, through the budget freeze of the expenses, that's where we have some savings in any of the lines that we have savings. Operations and maintenance, same thing. And it appears that we had a $460,000 savings in our out-of-district tuition, but that's really because we prepaid about $800,000 from the 23 funds for out-of-district. So that's fortunate that we did, and that's sort of bailing us out. So at the time of this report, that left us with $41,000, not encumbered, but again, we have payrolls and some last things will happen through the end of the year. So when I say we're running tight, we are running very, very tight. So that's basically where we stand at the end of third quarter.
Just an FYI, this is probably the worst thing to say about a freeze, but if we hadn't, you're looking at a structural deficit that would probably be very close to $1 million right now. And so that's the reason why we implemented it as a way to just try to get by. It also, I think, speaks to, as much as we have this migrant situation that's been upon us, the incredible increase in enrollment that we've seen of residents and need and so on and so forth. And we'll be talking about special ed in the near future through Mr. Clark and the team, just like Dr. Qualey and Ms. Fernandez did tonight. But it's the worst of the worst decisions. It's the worst of the best. It's an awful decision as superintendent to freeze the budget. I've had to do it before, not often. But at the same time, if we hadn't, our supplemental budget request would be unmanageable. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or thoughts?
I have one.
Okay. Chris, go ahead, and then Armando.
I never get tired of saying this. I just want to thank you so much for such a clear, easy to follow, comprehensive summary. I feel very much in the know, and I really look forward to these updates from you. So I wanted to thank you for that and for the work that you put into them. And Mr. Ford, I just wanted to commend you for doing what you always do. You brought in over $200,000 in grants, which I know is kind of a drop in the school budget bucket, but it makes such a tremendous difference. And I have written grants before. That is not an easy undertaking. It's usually a lot of work in a very short amount of time with a quick turnaround. And I really appreciate your efforts, so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
No, same. I think you guys are doing a great job, given the situation. My question is based upon, because of the budget freeze, what have we lost out on?
That's a great question. So a lot of the stuff, anything from technology and software, professional development, some curriculum purchases, some of our student issues. I mean, we haven't said a whole lot of no's, but if we needed an extra whatever, if it's not health and safety, we've said no to it. The hard part about your question is that next year we've cut $1.8 million worth of materials and supplies. So the number we started with this year was frozen, and now it's cut back further. It's a double whammy next year, unless we can find some other ways through grants, whatever. But the biggest issue has literally been the professional development, the curriculum, all of those types of upgrades, the software, the hardware is taken a hit. Which we have concerns long-term what that means in terms of the replacement of Chromebooks and all of that type of stuff. The stuff that people see, not including the stuff in the back room that is needed. Supplies has been another area that's concerning. But those have been the heavy buckets. In terms of staffing, we've tried to maintain staffing as much as possible, and in some cases we've been able to fill positions, in some cases we haven't. We've left those monies there if we can, but there are surprises in certain departments almost on a daily basis that require that, a student is going out of district, a student moves in and they are out of district, and all of that stuff. But that's been the high level no's, if you will, or hurt.
If I could just add two things, I was remiss in not mentioning the nurse grant, which is, I just didn't think of it because it's a repeating grant, but it did significantly increase this year. So it was a $50,000 grant that Danielle Gallen writes, and we were able to use about, I think it was $30,000 or $40,000 for all the substitute nurses and the extra hours. So that's helped us significantly. And the other area is in the music department. We did have funding for most of the buses and competitions. There's a couple of things at year end that were not approved. I can't remember specifically what they were, some of the smaller things that they go to, but that's the only other thing that really jumps out. We did have, not that it was as extensive, but NEASC was just here, and that's, we have to pay for the hotels and the meals and different things. So there's always some things that fluctuate year to year, and I will say that the ESY special education summer program last year went probably somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 over what was budgeted as well. So that, you have to do, it's a mandated thing. So there's definitely things that occur year to year that you just absorb and work around. And I think overall we've done that pretty well. And I did mention in here too that part of what has helped to some degree is that, for instance, in athletics, there were fees still remaining in that revolving fund from prior years. And really, I would say the last couple of months, whatever athletics needed, we have taken it out of that revolving fund to get by. So it's fortunate that those were there. We had a little bit of, about $20,000 of insurance recovery funds from years ago that was in a revolving fund. We were able to use that. The big storm a month or so ago ruined the, I think it was the pitch machine or something at the, that we split with rec to just repair. That had to be repaired. And about $8,000 in other type of insurance-related or similar type of repair work that Joyce Husseini had under her department. So the boiler repairs and things like that. So we were able to use the insurance recovery fund, but again, likely that will be gone. It's been there, I think, since 2015. That will be gone for next year. The athletics revolving will eventually be down to zero. So the fail-safes, the little cushions that might have been there, and it really is very little, if any, here at Stoughton, and that's fine, it is what it is. But I just want to point out that it's not stuff that, when I say cushions, it's not stuff that the school department was holding aside for this and that. You have to use them for what they're intended. So when the budget was well-funded, we didn't have to use maybe that little bit of athletics revolving. If you didn't have something that would qualify, like an insurance-type related repair, you wouldn't use that insurance revolving. So it's not that they were cushions in the budget that just sat there for no reason. There wasn't a need to use them until this year, but we are drawing them down, so, to get by. So the good of it is, if we can, we're going to preserve this year's circuit breaker income for next year as budgeted, and if we ever were in a bind, we would have that, we would have to use the prior year circuit breaker and the current year circuit breaker, which is not the most stable way to do things, but you can legally do that, and you'll be okay. So that will be, if we have move-ins, out-of-district placements that exceed what was budgeted. Don't forget, we do the budget, put it together in November. Many things happen with placements coming in and more placements being written as we identify more students that need that. With rising student population, of course, there's going to be a percentage of that rising student population that will also be special education and require more placements, whatever that percentage may be. So, we should anticipate that with a rising student population, we will have rising special education out of district cost along with that, as well as the ALS, et cetera. So just sort of where we are, we're doing okay. We're balancing things very carefully, looking for every possible cent to turn over, and using all of our grants, making sure we use them wisely. And so we're okay, but it's extremely tight. So is that can I answer anything else for you, or?
Any other questions? Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much, Ms.
All right,
Perkins. We
thank
appreciate
you.
it. All right, the next item on the agenda is the financial warrants. So this is, I'm going to have to ask for some guidance here. I'm reading
Read right across from left to right.
all the way down.
Yep.
Okay, so bear with me because this is going to be long. Okay, so I'm going to read the financial warrants into the record. So these are for April 9th. There's 8, 9. So the first is warrant number 24-40S. Warrant date is February 9th, 2024, in the amount of $121,840.25. The second is warrant number 24-41S, dated February 16th, 2024, in the amount of $158,884.91. The third is warrant number 24-42S, dated February 23rd, 2024, in the amount of $139,069.59. The fourth is warrant number 24-43S, dated March 1st, 2024, in the amount of that should be, I think, $393,197.19. There's a comma that threw me off. The next one is 24-45S is the number. The date is March 8th, 2024, in the amount of $146,221.61. The next is warrant number 24-46S, March 15th, 2024, for $509,195.01. The next one is warrant number 24-47S, dated March 22nd, 2024, in the amount of $723,658.81. And the last one is warrant number 24-48S, dated March 29th, 2024, in the amount of $302,020.67. So I will sign this as the school committee alternate, since our chair is not present this evening. And any questions about that? I need like water. That was forgot how to read numbers at one point in there. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes for March 12th and March 19th, 2024. So we can take those in order. Are there any amendments to the minutes for our March 12th, 2024 meeting? Anything suggested? I'm trying to remember if I had. I do have one, but want to open it up for other folks first. Anybody? Nothing. The one that I have is on page 3, under item C, Pilgrim Area Collaboratives Agreement Revision. The last sentence reads, the agreement needs to be updated every 6 years. It should actually say that like the agreement needs to be reviewed periodically. There's actually not a time limit. I thought it was every 10 years and it's actually not. So I would just amend that to the agreement needs to be updated periodically. Any other changes?
Madam Chair, just a
Yes.
correction on,
Yep.
on the March 12th one. Is that the one you're on?
Yes.
The, also in attendance, the spelling of Mr. Mange is A-A.
Yes, thank you.
M-A-N. There's no A.
M-A-N-G-E.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so with those two amendments to the spelling of the names under also in attendance, and then the Pilgrim Area Collaborative section. Any other agreement? Any other amendments? Okay. I will accept a motion to
Accept the minutes as amended
for March 12th, 2024.
for March 12th, 2024.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay, and I'll do a vote. Armando?
Aye.
Aye?
Abstain?
Okay, so that is 2 yes, 2 abstentions. Okay, and then the next set of minutes we have to approve is for March 19th, 2024. So any suggested amendments to these minutes? Okay. Armando? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I move to accept the minutes as presented for the regular meeting of the Stoughton School Committee on March 19th, 2024.
All right,
Second?
thank you, Armando. Roll call vote?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Perfect, okay. Thank you all. So the next item on the agenda is school committee policy review. I think, given that one half of the school committee members on the policy working group is not present this evening, and also given that we have a request, I believe, to the state for clarification on the language of a couple of the policies that we haven't heard back on yet, I'd like to suggest that we actually move this to our next our next meeting. Is anyone, any thoughts on that? Okay, so in that case, we will skip both the informational policies as well as the discussion policies, and we'll come back to those at our next meeting. So the next section of the agenda is unfinished business. So the FY25 budget and articles we're continuing to work on, requesting information from the state, looking for additional sources of funding, and currently the next step in the budget process will be to present that at town meeting in May as part of the town meeting process. Anything to add there, Dr. Bayetta, or?
No, that's exactly
Okay.
correct.
Perfect. And then the second piece of unfinished business on the agenda is the elementary school building project update. So last week, the building team presented to it was municipal operations, right, on Monday, April 1st, and the finance committee on Wednesday, April 3rd. Both committees voted to recommend the elementary school project to town meeting. So the next step in the process is that will come before town meeting through like a special town meeting within town meeting, which is a little different than how it usually works, but it's the process this year. But that will be the opportunity for town meeting representatives to vote on the project, and if it passes town meeting, it will then advance to a ballot and be voted by the public for approval. So and then there's also the information session coming up, right?
So
I don't wanna
two
forget
meetings,
to-
just, one will be tomorrow with the abutters at 7 o'clock, 6:30 regular meeting, 7 o'clock, and that will be at the South School for the building committee. And then the second meeting is an invitation to the community and special invitation to town meeting reps going out for April 29th at 6:30 with a presentation overview of the project and a physical walkthrough of the South School. So that meeting would also be at the South School. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions about any of that? Okay. The next item is other matters. Does anyone have anything else to bring forward? Okay, perfect. So then, the last item on the agenda is to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Before the motion, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
of course.
If you could just announce that we are seeking a April 23rd
Oh,
school
yes,
committee
thank you.
meeting.
Yep.
Because the next one is in May, and probably during town meeting, we'll probably have get-togethers, but we're sneaking in this 23rd because of the building and other matters that you need to address, please.
Yep, thank you for that. Still getting the hang of this thing. But, yeah, so the next regular meeting is scheduled for May 21st, 2024. Obviously, that's like quite a ways away, so we will likely have another meeting on Tuesday, April 23rd, after the school vacation week to resolve a couple of the things that we bumped tonight. All right, so with that said, would love to hear a motion to adjourn from anyone.
I move we adjourn.
All right, the time is 8:43. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Armando. I'll do a vote. Armando?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.